morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session at the SBC Digital Summit Barcelona, virtually, of course, on payments in North America. My name is Jonathan Michaels, Vice President of Strategic Alliances at the American Gaming Association. I'll be your moderator for today's session. The first sentence of the session description tells you all you need to know about where this has been. The U.S. market is not renowned for being at the cutting edge with payments. But I'd argue as we sit here today, there's no more important and interesting topic to the U.S. gaming market. What you are seeing is the convergence of three major U.S. gaming trends, all centering around the payment space. One is the growth of sports betting. As we sit here today, 18 states plus Washington, D.C. have active sports betting, with another 4 states legal but not yet operational. The growth in payment acceptance in the U.S. sports betting market has been a huge driver of growth for the legal regulated industry. Online casinos' role in diversifying revenues is another big trend. In Q2 of this year, iGaming saw a 253.8% jump that many in the industry took note of. We'll talk a bit today about the growth of this sector and where it might go in the future. And the third trend is the emergence of digital payment options in brick and mortar casinos. The COVID pandemic has shifted thinking around the use of digital payments in casinos, with several U.S. jurisdictions, both commercial and tribal, allowing for new digital payment options that provide customers with the same choice they are accustomed to in the rest of their lives. AGA research suggests that gaming patrons are using contactless payments dramatically more as a result of the pandemic. More than half are interested in using a digital wallet type solution in a casino, and they are using less cash than before COVID. To help us talk through those U.S. trends, as well as those in Canada and elsewhere in North America, we've got a great group of panelists to join me today. I'll let each of them provide you with some information on themselves, but please join me in welcoming Lee Turfloth, Vice President of Online Gaming Product for Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in beautiful Atlantic City, New Jersey; Michael Older, Director of Operations for Fifth Street Gaming; Robert Hagen, Senior Advisor, iGaming for Nuvei; and Jenya Guevitz, Head of Payments, Talron, Drahem and Company Law Firm. So the way I like to do this is kind of tee up a question and allow everybody to introduce themselves. First question is for Lee. As I mentioned about the growth of iGaming, the New Jersey online gaming market has been one of the few bright spots in the U.S. gaming industry over the past 6 months. Given your history in the market since its inception, talk a little bit how that market has evolved, specifically around how the acceptance of payments has shifted since the market was launched in 2013. Lee?
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for so in 2013, when the online gaming market launched in New Jersey, payments acceptance was really poor. We had bad acceptance on MasterCard, somewhere around 60%, and Visa was around 25 to 30%. We had Sightline and not a lot of other options available to customers. But since then, we've gained a lot of traction. Visa has gained back TD Bank, but still does not have Chase or Bank of America. Sightline has become the dominant partner and payment processor in the market. And we've seen great additional third parties come in like PayNearMe and NetTeller. But still, there is no de facto winner that really, truly has taken the payment processing to the next level. Things continue to get better over time, but not fast enough. We still leave a lot of money on the table, even with Amex and other payment processors coming in over the last year or so. So while it has gotten better, there's still a lot of room for improvement.
Thank you, Lee. Next question is for Robert. As this session is about payments in North America broadly, can you fill us in what's happened with the Canadian market and also how might some of that transition to the United States?
Sure, and thank you so much for the panel today. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. There's a lot of similarities between the Canadian market and the U.S. market. As Lee had mentioned, there are issues, acceptance, and there is room for the dominant alternative pay in the landscape would be EFT, which is ACH, the Canadian version of ACH. Is around ACH are habits. I think that there's going to be in the future a lot of improvement of how interact with the ACH offerings in Canada, but we do have in the Canadian market space a tremendous amount of credit card acceptance. I would say that wallets are really not a big player in the Canadian space, and I think we'll see a lot of what we're learning in the U.S. market sort of trickle into the Canadian market, and hopefully improve conversion rates and overall sort of credit card acceptance.
Thank you, Robert. Jenya, next question is for you. Talk to us about the challenges that European companies face when looking at the US and North American markets, and how that might impact some more modern technologies from being adopted in the US.
Thank you, Jonathan. First of all, you guys, you're saying good morning. Here in sunny Tel Aviv, it's actually 5 p.m. We're doing this in sunny Barcelona, while we're sitting panel, but it is what it is. So is that many operators, gaming operators, when they're considering about marketplaces they want to addressed with some reluctance. The regulatory issues has some cooling.
Well, I believe Jenya's frozen up on us, so
because it means first of all, very few in the United States allow some sort of and the banking's not state of
we'll get Jenya back in a few minutes, hopefully, to speak on that. As you can expect, this is sometimes what happens with virtual events.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
A little better now, Jenya. If you want to start from the top.
The connection is breaking up for some reason. I don't know why. So I was saying the U.S. market is a bit complicated for gaming operators in terms of regulation. The regulations could be very restrictive and addressing to the state that allows some sort of some sort of online gambling for the operators, not just support the hustle, and have all those foreign and compliance acts like what is known the FATCA compels other bodies to report to the U.S. government, and the banking system is very old school. The information itself, you have this the thing that's called regional banks, which the regional banks are not very they don't have the same information sharing as in Europe. They have very little to none information sharing with other financial institutions, not like their counterparts in Europe. So the challenges are real for when looking for the U.S. market. People prefer to operate in more easygoing European markets, allowing much more feasible and stable solutions, and that's it.
Thanks, Jenya. Appreciate that overview. And is Michael still with us, or did he hop off as well?
I think it's up.
Okay, so we'll keep moving forward. Sorry for those of you listening in to this, as you can expect with some of the technical difficulties, but we have great panelists today who are happy to share their insights. Really encourage you to ask questions throughout this session because that's how we get the most out of it. So first question for the group as a whole, and Lee, you touched on this a little bit, so if you could take it first, that'd be great. One of the big challenges with the growth of payments in the U.S. has been acceptance. What's been holding this back in the United States?
The biggest holding banks back is the Unlawful Internet Gaming Enforcement Act, as well as the Wire Act, and having payments cross state lines. That hold things back for Bank of America and Chase, obviously the two largest banking institutions in the United States. Without them willing to truly support online gaming, acceptance rates for credit cards, which is the fundamental payment method of Americans, you're never going to see the true wide area acceptance that online gaming needs. Like I said, it's getting better. TD Bank launched in 2013 and took a timeout for 4 or 5 years, and then eventually came back into the market. We saw a significant change in acceptance rates on the back of that, and fantastic work by some of the people in the gaming sector who really pushed for that, as well as the American Gaming Association. Without that, we would still be a little bit in the Stone Ages, but with the wide area acceptance of sports betting and some of the bigger companies coming online, it's getting better. But we're still not at 100%.
Robert, Jenny, anything to add on to that?
Can you repeat the question, Jonathan?
U.S. card acceptance, what's been holding it back?
Well, as I was previously saying, the U.S. banking system, it's like it's a complicated system compared to other banking system. I mean, they're a bit falling behind. They're still, like the state of mind. It's like they're doing everything via facsimile, and this is just an example of how things work. I mean, the acceptance of the U.S. banking system, I mean, it's not as advanced as in Europe. I mean, that you have like a lot of digital solution, everything's going online. You almost, in very many places, you actually don't need to be physically in the bank to, first of all, to open a bank, and second, to make all sort of transactions. In most of European banks, you don't need this stuff. And in the U.S., from what we know from our clients, that the U.S. banking system is very problematic in that sense.
Robert, anything to add on that?
No, I think you guys have covered it. I think it would be nice to see advancements in additional alternative payments like Google and Apple Pay, and just to start to expand the current stack of payment options available, and hopefully that happens in the very near future.
Yeah, and Robert, to build on that, talk a little bit about some of these rescue solutions. So, one of the things that a lot of U.S. patrons, myself included, have run into when you're trying to deposit funds into an account and you use some of those banks that Lee mentioned, Chase and Bank of America, you get rejected. And as a result, you have to find ways to do this. So whether it be rescue wallets or ACH or non-traditional forms of payment, can you talk a little about how that has been such an important function?
Absolutely, yeah. So Lee sort of touched upon the fact that the primary payment option that ultimately start with is credit card. So if credit card is going to be declined, you need to offer a solution that is similar to credit card in the sense that it has a very simple user interface. So you want there to be as little friction as possible when collecting information from a consumer. So traditionally, because of its price point, and because it allows consumers to deposit and to use funds immediately, just like credit card, ACH is being shot out as the rescue option, and it's getting better and better. And as a result, the approval rates of ACH are also getting better. But yeah, and I mean, of course, there's other options as well. There's, as Lee had mentioned, there's Sightline, there's you've got Payoneer as well, which is more of a sort of brick and mortar. But yeah, I think that's where things are going, at least from my perspective.
Lee, Jen, anything to add to that?
I think that Jenya hit it on the head. The infrastructure here in the United States for payment processing fundamentally is archaic, and you just see very low adoption of new technology in the payment sector. When Europe was introducing contactless payments for credit cards, the United States was just getting chip and PIN. So it's just a very slow adoption rate here for new technology. And, it's going to take time for everything.
Exactly.
Great. And we have a couple questions that have come in. I want to thank our friends at Mazuma for asking them. That makes this a bit more interesting. So with several states not allowing credit cards, do you think other states would follow? So it's just to provide a bit more context to that. As you are seeing sports betting grow in the United States, there are a handful of jurisdictions that do not allow for credit cards to be used to fund accounts. And you even have seen some states like Iowa, who recently passed regulations for sports betting not allowing credit cards. Do we see that proliferating in other states? Lee, do you want to take that one first?
I'm not implicitly familiar with the entire background behind the reason for not allowing credit cards, but from what I do remember, it was, I don't think specifically something in the regulations, but more something in the state legislature or state laws that precluded it. So I don't know if it was intentional, but I do think that if we do see more states banning credit cards, then we're just going to see the advent of more e-wallets, just like we did in the early days of online gaming when you couldn't use a Visa or MasterCard. So you'll see an emergence of a new NetTeller or a new PayPal. So where there's a will, there's always a way.
Robert, Jen, anything to add on that?
No.
To find a way to deposit.
Yeah, the one thing I would add, I guess, from an AGA perspective, and certainly one of the key things here is also responsible gaming, which we'll touch on a bit more in a bit, is there's perception around credit and credit usage that it fuels problem gambling. You did see a study coming out of the UK that a number of folks that used credit solutions had problem gambling issues. So I think it's telling the story of that. What we try to advocate for in our discussions with regulators is flexibility, because in a number of jurisdictions, people might not be ready to accept credit. They might be ready for debit. Nevada has this. They actually have a prohibition statutorily against the use of credit. But what we advocate for is really making sure that whatever regulations are put in place, they allow the flexibility where down the line you could utilize credit solutions. So, another question that came in, and we'll toss this to Jenya first, because I think Europe does a great job with this. Do we believe that frictionless withdrawal is equally as important as frictionless deposits?
That's a good question. Well, we always advise our clients, always, be fair with your players, and they'll continue to show their loyalty to you. later down the road. I mean, we always advise our clients, if someone is winning, always pay them as soon as possible. Refrain from all those, nuisances and possible headaches in the future, because these are, at the end of the day, these are like, pocket money compared to other, difficulties that might this thing might raise. Because if it's easy, to make a deposit for a customer, then obviously maybe it's a psychological thing. He would expect the money to return back to his bank account exactly in the same way. I mean, and that's how we always advise our clients. Always, when the client wins, always provide them the refund, the winning, whatever the case might be.
Robert, Lee, anything to add to that? Lee, in particular, from the iGaming side of things, I think your perspective would be important.
Sure. So obviously, paying customers as quick as possible is good in the long run for retention. And as an operator, we always strive to pay our customers as quickly as possible. Obviously, we have to follow as many AML and internal SOPs as possible to ensure that we know who the customer is and that we're verifying all the information that's possible. But once all those hurdles are out of the way the first time, then we do try to pay customers as fast as possible. And in an ideal world, we would be able to automate our withdrawals. I think that's something that I would love to see happen one day. I know you see that in Europe, where you don't retain a balance on a site, and you just pull money in and out from your bank account based on your session. I think one day our payment processors will, or a payment processor will enter the market that allows for that to happen and doesn't have restrictive rates that allow us to manage that. So I think we'll get there one day.
Robert, anything on your end?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important that the customers get paid out as quickly as possible, and I think everybody's striving to do that. There are sort of rules in place, but I think we're looking for that balance, and I think we're getting there. And I think we're going to get as close to real time as quickly as possible. But I think everybody's sort of moving in that direction. And yes, I believe we can, and we can learn a lot about how they process those payouts and how frequently they do.
Awesome, thank you. So I touched on this a second ago. Yep. Responsible gaming. Responsible gaming in payments is a really important concept as payments becomes more and more important in the U.S. Certainly, what we talk about at AGA, and I'm interested in all of your perspectives on this as well, is that responsible gaming adds additional layers of safeguards for players. So whether that's creating accounts and being able to set deposit limits and time limits, whether that's the financial institutions and how they're able to accept and do things like that, whether that's the operators with the ability to view that data. So talk a little bit about responsibility in payments. And Jen, we'll start with you, since certainly this is a huge issue in Europe right now.
Yes, absolutely, Jonathan. The thing is about responsible gaming is, as I was mentioning earlier, it's about like building a long-term loyalty with your client base. I mean, as long as you provide a transparent, reliant, stable services, products, whatever the case might be, it builds much more structural, inherited belief in your products, in your services, and all these payment solutions that are institutionalized in Europe. That's because they wanna encourage the players, the players that their money is safe. That if they have any any issue, if it's a regulatory issue, if it's a commercial issue, if they're having a dispute with an operator, they need points of contact to address their issues to. Otherwise they'll lose their faith in the operator, in the regulatory structure, in this business, and it's obviously it's a bad thing. It's like a ripple effect. As long as we keep things like in line with fair play standards, and always be compliant, and always follow the rules. This is like the mantra we always reiterate to our clients. Always be compliant, always follow the law, and always be okay with your clients. That's what we always advise.
Robert Lee.
So from a responsible gaming perspective here in New Jersey, the Division of Gaming Enforcement have done a fantastic job from the beginning in setting forth the rules and functions that we needed to have to protect customers, or offer the ability for customers to protect themselves from any issues. And we do a good job, I think, today of educating customers on that. Hard Rock takes responsible gaming very seriously. On the brick and mortar side, we've launched our system, Player's Edge, to help customers educate themselves on responsible gaming and being proactive in knowing their limits. We're definitely keeping an eye on that and looking to bring that program online in the future as well. So I think that we definitely do a very good job today in responsible gaming, and I think we're going to expand that moving forward. I think that that there's definitely some learnings from the U.S. that could be applied potentially over to Europe in terms of the responsible gaming and the approach that New Jersey and the DG have taken.
Robert?
Yeah, I think that the operators are doing a fantastic job. I think that it's constantly evolving, it's changing, and they're looking Europe to see how. But I think especially in New Jersey, I mean, they've been very successful, and I think that again, evolving, and it's only going to get stronger. It's only going to get better. So yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. And just one thing to talk about and give kudos to Lee and Hard Rock. Hard Rock International has certainly taken a leadership role within tribal gaming in the U.S. In rolling out their programs around responsible gaming and helping really educate folks on that. So certainly great to hear your view on that, Lee, and appreciate Hard Rock's approach there. One thing I do want to touch on with about 10 minutes remaining is brick and mortar casinos. So we've talked about online gaming and sports betting, but brick and mortar is really where you could see tremendous growth. So, the United States, the brick and mortar casino industry is about $100 billion a year revenue business, pre-COVID naturally. So certainly what COVID has forced is a lot of states to look at their regulations around digital payment options as consumers utilize less cash. Certainly Nevada, we were going to talk a little bit about their regulation changes, but you've also seen New Jersey's been a leader in this and others. So I guess, Lee, if you could start with, as an operator, how would brick and mortar casinos benefit from different digital payment options on the gaming floor?
I mean, they would tremendously benefit from having access to digital currency or digital wallets available on the floor. Customers not having to, head over to the bank ATM to pull out money and paying exorbitant fees on the floor would be great for that customer. Being able to, transfer money. Obviously we have Tito today, but Tito to tables obviously would be beneficial as well. There's a multitude of options that would be great. And obviously, from the online perspective, being able to share a wallet between the online product and the brick and mortar product would be fantastic, and something that Hard Rock has been looking at for a very long time, trying to commingle these worlds and offer a seamless structure to customers. As we work towards a true omni-channel world, I think you're going to see the emergence of online wallets being your core wallet from the online gaming perspective, and just being able to use that card or that payment option in the brick and mortar space.
Robert, Jen, anything to add on that?
I think that we definitely need to see that relationship between the floor and the online space. I'm actually surprised that we haven't already. I think that we need to move in that direction. I think the user, the consumer, needs to have that in place. And it's definitely going to help both channels. And it's possible. It's absolutely possible. We just need to figure out how to do it, and it needs to be done ASAP.
I actually agree with you guys. I think like the adoption of the brick and mortar casinos, of the online infrastructure in some sense is the smart thing to do. I mean, when you guys remember a few years back, the mass shooting in Vegas, with so many casualties, that didn't stop the city, but there were still so many panicking all around, and people after that were very reluctant to travel to Vegas. And only during the COVID-19, the casinos in Las Vegas were forced to close, and they suffered great losses. And those who are available online, online operators, they saw only a surge in their activities. So I think an adoption of the online infrastructure will be the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, and Jen, just on the Las Vegas point of that, certainly it's been a tough couple months for that town in light of the pandemic, but within our research, Las Vegas visitors over-index on everything relating to digital payment options. So certainly I think a trend you're going to start to see is people filling their MGM wallet before they get on a plane and go and be able to gamble and dine and go to retail outlets and all of that. We have one other question from the audience, and then we'll wrap. And this one's interesting. With many sports wagering companies going public in the United States, you've recently seen DraftKings, Rush Street Interactive, GAN, all IPO in the US. Do you think there will be pressure by investors for operators to lower the cost of payments in the future? Jen, do you want to take that one first?
It's a very good question. I think we've seen so many gaming companies that born and raised in Israel, like the 888 and Playtech and all those companies that went public under this name or another name, and like, it's like going public. It's a huge step. It's a huge step for the operator. So lowering the payments, I think it's maybe maybe beneficial in the short term, but I'm not sure about it in the long term for the operator to lower it. That's my take on that.
Robert?
Yeah, I think that there's also a cost to. We're talking about improving technology, right? We're saying we want to have better payments. We want to have more relevant payments. And I think that, we should be moving in that direction, but, at the same time, let's not give up, technology. And I think technology comes at a cost. So I think, I think developing that technology is something that's, we should be focused on. And then we can look at optimizing things from a pricing perspective. But I wouldn't want us to give up on striving to to increase technology, and lower cost means we could potentially be in a situation where we're not able to apply that technology to payments. So I think we need to be aware of that as well.
And Lee, anything to add?
Yeah, I think you're going to see the payment processors themselves become less prominent. You're going to see more of the payment processing happen through technology in the background. So it's going to be less, complicated for customers to fund, and it's going to get better. But looking at the sports betting companies that have gone public, or the various companies that have gone public, they obviously have much larger things that they need to ROI before they start really getting into the nitty-gritty of payments. If you're talking about payments, which make up between 3 and 7% of your gross gaming revenue, but your marketing budget or marketing expenditure is 200 times your gross gaming revenue, then is that really the focus that you need to have at the beginning?
Thanks. And as we only have a couple minutes left, last question that I kind of always ask on these. What's next with U.S. payments? Where do you see this going over the next few years with regard to iGaming, sports betting, brick and mortar casino payments? Robert, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that I think we're going to see, and we've talked about this throughout our conversation today, but I'm going to see a higher acceptance rate for credit cards, which North Americans are looking at using credit card as a primary option for payment. So I think we see the banks changing their stance. We are going to mature as an industry, and we're going to see that evolution. We're going to see maybe a easier from a banking perspective, but I think we're going to see in the near future, hopefully. Yeah.
Thank you. Jenya?
Yeah, well, I'm an optimistic person in my nature, so I think it will take some time, but the U.S. system will improve over time. It will get better. I think, as we've seen with Robert's company Innovate acquiring a European company, SafeCharge, which is a fun fact. Our law firm was in charge of their first payment processing agreement back in 2003 when they're called Gateway for You. I think we will see exactly that, mergers between U.S. companies and European companies, like a mix of the two, and adoption. It will take time, but I think the U.S. system will improve over time.
Thank you. And Lee, last one.
Yeah, I mean, as everything we do in the online gaming industry, this is a volume-based game. As more states come online, we get more volume in payments. As we get more volume in payments, more companies begin to find our industry attractive. And as our industry becomes more and more attractive, the big companies are going to have no choice but to start accepting us and start working with us. So it's inevitable. It's only a matter of time. And I think with the number of states we now have accepting sports betting, it's time for it's right there. We're right on the cusp of the big companies starting to step in, and it's going to happen, I'd say, within 12 to 20 months, where we have mass adoption.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Lee, and thank you to all of you who joined us today, wherever you are across the world. I want to give a special thank you to our panelists today for sharing their insights. Certainly don't hesitate to reach out to any of them or myself if you have any questions. Thank you again to everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Jonathan. It was a pleasure, guys.
Thank you,
Jonathan. Yep.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jenya. Thank you, Robert.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.